Joining me today is New Hampshire State Senator Dan Feltes. Dan, we've got one last segment, and I want to spend some time looking at insurance, other broad insurance issues, health coverage, broader health coverage, mental health, the dynamics there. So I'm going to throw out sort of that general thing, and in that umbrella, what's going on that you think we ought to know about?
Well, there's a number of things, John. One is Senate Bill 576, which is already passed and signed by the governor through the leadership of Governor Hess and Senator Bradley and others working in a bipartisan way. We passed a bill to say that for the first 2 outpatient visits for substance use disorder services, and outpatient means, not intensive inpatient, you're not in a
going to
residential bed
somewhere.
Therapist or Suboxone or some of these other mechanisms that help folks in this situation dealing with the heroin and opioid public health crisis. For the first 2, you don't need prior authorization, so you don't have those hurdles.
So you don't have to go and get approval from your insurance company?
You don't have to get approval from, you don't have to jump through a bunch of hoops, basically.
You can get treatment immediately?
Yes. And so right now we need to deal with the issue of inpatient services, the residential treatment beds, and how insurance companies are treating people with respect to that. We see some barriers there. We need to work on that.
What are the
Senate
barriers?
Bill. Well, sometimes there's, this is very expensive, John. It's very, very expensive to provide intensive inpatient services, and one of the barriers is the capacity in the state. We don't have the beds and different type of inpatient services that other states do. In many cases, people are seeing their loved ones needing to go out of state, including all the way to Rhode Island, to get the help that they need, the addiction services that they need to get well and to get moving forward. And, so insurance companies and how they treat people, I think everybody's dealt with an insurance company, and sometimes they're not the most fun companies to deal with, and these expensive services that the insurance companies would have to pay for, potentially, you can see that there's maybe a bit of an incentive to divert into less expensive services. And so we need to work on that. We need to work with the insurance carriers as best as possible, but they also need to understand that they need to step up to the plate because we're in a crisis. And, you can't, mess with people in a crisis. You need to provide the coverage and provide the help that people need so that we can move the state forward, stem and reverse the tide of the public health crisis we're in.
And what's the bill and what will it do?
That's Senate Bill 532, and that deals with some of the pre-authorization and other processes for intensive inpatient services. We also, the insurance department, under the leadership of Commissioner Savini, is undertaking a market conduct analysis to look and review in detail what all our insurance carriers are doing with respect to substance use disorder services and their denial rates. Why are they denying it? And they're comparing it. There's a federal law, the Pete Domenici and Paul Wellstone Mental Health and Addiction Equity Act of 2008 and amendments, which basically says you provide coverage. If you provide coverage for mental health and substance use disorder, you got to do it on a comparable basis to medical, surgical. So in other words, you can't do a bunch
of cherry pick one for the other.
Well, you can't change it in a way that is not comparable. So for example, mental health, you can't say, all right, well, for a visit, it's $1,000 deductible, but if it's a physical or some other issue, it's only $5. And that's an extreme example.
Right. And that's hypothetical.
That's hypothetical. Yeah. So the insurance department is engaging in this much-needed analysis. A bill I filed, Senate Bill 502, had a number of requirements for the insurance department to do different things, and the insurance department, to their credit, really stepped up to the plate, and under their leadership, doing a lot of good things to help move forward on addressing this issue of mental health and substance use disorder. So I look forward to working with them and everybody else and trying to move these issues forward.
Well, we're going to have to get you back to find out what happens, because right now we're out of time. But Dan, thanks so much for being here.
You got it, John. Thank you very much.
Yeah, you're welcome. And thank you for joining us for this edition of Capital Connections, your weekly access to politics and policy along the I-89 and I-91 corridors and how it impacts our life and our region. If you have a comment or a question or a suggestion for a future guest, please email me. And join us again at the same time for another edition of Capital Connections.